Lesson 2, which is understanding variables and expressions. A symbol, usually a letter, is used to represent an unknown number, and that's a variable. And a quantity whose value does not change is a constant. Okay, so a variable varies, and a constant remains constant, which means it doesn't change. So if in an expression, for example, we have x plus 4, okay, if we have x plus 4, the x is the variable, okay, because it's representing a number. I could plug in 0 there, 4, -7, 22. I could plug in any number there, and it's going to vary based on what I'm choosing to substitute for it. The 4, however, is going to remain 4 no matter what. It is always going to be plus 4 because that's just what the number is. So it is constant. So it wants us to identify constants and variables here. So our constants are going, actually I want you to go ahead and pause please at this time and label out your constants and your variables. Okay, so constants for A, okay, constants are going to be numbers who don't change, and numbers that aren't going to change. 4 is always going to be 4, and 7 is always going to be 7. Now this part will change based on what we substitute in for x, which is going to make x our variable because it will vary. So our variable here is x. We're going to do the same thing over here. The constants will be what doesn't change, and what doesn't change is going to be our numbers. So we have 24 and we have 12. Pretend that looks like a 12. And our variables are going to be w, z, and y. In the expression 4xy, that can be written as 4 times x times y, and the numeric factor, okay, is the coefficient. This is all being multiplied together. We just don't have to show that multiplication. And whenever we're multiplying, we call what we're multiplying factors. Okay, so that's where that comes from. And the numeric portion of that is the coefficient. So 4 would be the coefficient, and all of them are factors. Okay, 4, x, and y are all factors because they are all being multiplied. So I want you to pause, please, at this time and try and do example 2. Okay, so we have factors and we have coefficients. Okay, our factors are all things that are being multiplied. So things that are being multiplied here are going to be 7, v, and w. Okay, all those are actually being multiplied by one another. And our coefficient is the numeric factor, and in this case that is 7. On b, what's being multiplied is -2, q, r, and s. We can say that those are all being multiplied together. And our coefficient is the numeric factor, which is -2. We have b and c being multiplied, but it still wants to know our coefficient. Whenever it does not show the coefficient, it is understood to be 1, because I can multiply 1 times this and it's not going to change the value. So the coefficient here is 1. Parts of an expression are separated by addition or subtraction signs, and they're called terms of an expression. So this is one big expression, and we call it an expression because it does not have an equal sign. Okay, if it had an equal sign, we would have to call it an equation. So the first term here is just the one that's written first, and the first term is x. The next one is 4xym. The next one is 6p over y plus 2, and then 8. These two have negative signs that belong to them. So this first term is a positive because we don't show a sign, and when we don't show a sign, That means that it is understood to be positive. We just don't have to show it there. We have the positive number in front of this one, so it's positive. The negative in front of this, which means that this is a negative, and the negative in front of this, which means that the negative belongs to that. And we'll talk about that more when we talk about simplifying expressions. So example 3 says identify the terms. So terms are separated by addition and subtraction signs. So I have an addition sign here, and I have a subtraction sign here, which means my terms are 6xy, 57w, and 24x over 5y. On B, I can do the same thing. I have a positive here, negative here, which means I have 4 terms. My first is x, then 3xy, then 8d over j plus 4, and finally 9. What I want you to do now, your only homework problem for today, is to do example 4 on your own, and we will check it in class tomorrow. So you need to pause the video, do example 4 on your own paper, and we will talk about it in class first thing tomorrow. Hope you have a good night.